And come into easy pose. So if for some reason being in a seated position is not super comfortable for you, you can always choose to lay down or start in child's pose, whatever makes you feel good. But if you're seated, you can come to easy pose with your legs open so that both feet and both knees are touching the ground. Or you can also tuck the feet underneath the knees, or maybe you just want to sit with your legs a little bit more open like this, not even crossed. Make yourself comfortable here. Maybe rocking side to side a little bit, and then back and forth. And then find wherever spot you feel nice and comfortable. Maybe moving towards stillness here. You can rest your hands in your lap, on your knees. Perhaps your palms are facing up or down. And I'd like to invite you to close your eyes here. Or maybe you just want to drop your gaze down towards the floor and relax the gaze and start to bring your attention inward. We'll start by just feeling the breath. Whatever sensations you're feeling here, just notice them. Whatever sensations are tied to the breath. Perhaps you can feel your breath on the inside of your nose. Cool as you breathe in and warm on the exhale. Perhaps you're noticing where in your body you feel your breath moving. Maybe you feel your back rising and falling with each breath, or the ribs moving in and out. Maybe you feel your belly moving with the breath, maybe even in the shoulders. Now let's start to stretch the breath out. We're going to send breath to different parts of the body here, one at a time. On your next inhale, try to take a deep breath in and send all your breath deep into your belly. If you like, you can bring your hand to your belly here. Big deep breath in, filling up the belly. And exhale, emptying out all the way. Next, let's move on to the ribs. Maybe wrapping the arms around, feeling your sides, right where your ribs are, moving in and out with each breath. Send all the breath into the rib cage. And then exhale, pushing out every last speck of stale air. See if you can feel your hands moving with the breath. And for the last of the three parts, we're going to send all of our breath into our upper chest area. Maybe bringing the hand up right underneath your neck, the top of your chest. Take a deep breath in. See if you can feel your hand rising and falling with the breath. Now let's add all three of those parts together in one big full breath. Hands can be on the lap, on the knees, or maybe you want to bring your hands to your heart and your belly and still feel that breath moving underneath your hands. Take a deep breath in, first filling up the belly, and then filling up your ribs, and lastly, all the way up, filling up all the lungs and upper chest. And as you empty out, see if you can go in the opposite direction. First, emptying out the lungs, upper chest, and then feeling your rib cage fall back in, and finally emptying out the belly. Let's take 2 more breaths just like that, filling up the belly, the ribs, and the lungs. And emptying out the lungs, ribs, and then the belly. One more time. Just go at your own pace here. And now keeping the eyes closed, let's do just a very quick body scan here. Checking in head to toe, remembering that each day is different, so we need to meet our body where it is in this moment. Honoring anything that our body has gone through, any injuries, any sore spots. Remembering that you can always modify any pose or take a break. Just making this practice your own. Blink the eyes open. On a breath in, lift the hands up overhead, stretching the spine up really tall. Look up, bring your hands together. As we exhale, folding forward, bring the hands through heart center. Release your fingertips down to the ground. Hinge from the hips. Try to keep the spine really long as you're going down, taking your time. And then once you find your edge, wherever that is, round out the back and let your head and neck relax down towards the ground. On your next breath in, walk your hands back, pushing yourself back up to a seat. Drop the hands down to the lap. And let's do some gentle neck rolls here, starting by leaning the head back and then dropping your head to one side, ear down towards the shoulder, releasing the chin towards the chest, and then lifting your head back up. Other ear comes toward the other shoulder. Find your own pace here. Maybe it doesn't really feel like you're making circles. Maybe it feels more like you're making a blob shape or even a square. Anything is fine here, whatever feels right to you. And let's find circles going the other way. See if you notice any changes here in the neck and how your neck is feeling when you're making circles one way versus the other. There's no judgment. We're just noticing the different sensations that come up in the body. Raising our levels of self-awareness. And then come back up to center. Inhale, lifting the hands up overhead. Look up, bring the hands together. Exhale into a twist. One hand is going to come behind us. And with the other hand, you can just drop it down on the ground in front of you or cross it over your opposite knee. Take a deep breath in, sitting up really straight and tall. As you breathe out, you can go deeper into your twist, maybe even bending the elbows a little bit. Inhale, sitting up really tall. Exhale, going deep into the twist. Inhale, back up to center. Float the hands up overhead. Look up, bringing the hands together. Exhale, twisting around to the other side. One hand behind us, other hand is crossing over the knee or just sitting on the ground in front of you. Big breath in to sit up a little taller. Go deeper into your twist on the breath out. Inhale, lengthening the spine. And exhale, bending the elbows, peeking over the back shoulder. Back up to center on a breath in, floating the hands up overhead. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Reaching down, let's switch our legs. Front leg comes to the back, and the back leg comes out in front. Folding over the feet once again. Inhale, hands up overhead, lengthening the spine tall. Exhale, Pull your hands through heart center, release the fingers to the ground, and start to walk your fingers forward, keeping your spine really long, hinging from the hips. Take your time going down, and wherever you find your edge, your stopping point, just start to round out the back and let your head and neck relax down towards the ground. On your next breath in, walk your hands back, pushing yourself back up to a seat. And then release the hands outside of the knees. Spinal warm up here. On the breath in, let's roll the shoulders down and back, and then arch the back. Lean your head back, peek up at the sky. Exhale, push your spine out behind you. Start from the base of the spine, and then relax your head and neck down. Keep moving just like that. See if you can identify individual vertebrae in your back. If not, that's okay too. Just notice what sensations are arising in your spine here. What sort of things are happening? We're warming up the spine, just getting everything moving. Try to tie your movement to your breath here, letting your breath dictate your speed. Inhale, shoulders roll down, arching the back, peeking up at the sky. And on the exhales, pushing the spine out behind you and relaxing the head and neck. Come back up to a neutral spine. Making our way into a side stretch. As we breathe in, float the hands up. Exhale, planting one hand on the ground beside you. Walk those fingers out, leaning down to that side. Opposite arm comes arcing overhead like a rainbow here, fingers just dangling down. Check on that opposite hip. You want to make sure you're pushing that hip down to the ground. Sometimes it starts to lift up off the ground a little bit. And then you can also bend and straighten that elbow. Maybe making that stretch a little bit more intense. Back to center on the breath in. Float the hands up overhead. Look up, bring the hands together. Exhale, down to the other side. Other hand comes down. Walking the fingers out. Opposite arm arcing overhead like a rainbow. Check on that hip. Making sure it's glued down to the mat. And then maybe bending and straightening the elbow if that feels good. On your next breath in, come back up to center. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Let's make our way to hands and knees tabletop here, planting the hands, rolling over the knees. We're just swinging the legs around to one side. And then bring the knees together to touch right underneath the hips and check on your hands. Make sure the wrists are right below the shoulders and the fingers are open nice and wide. We want to be pushing down through this circle that the palm is making, pushing through the pads at the ends of all the fingers and the curve at the bottom of the palm there. And then lift one leg up, pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. That leg is parallel to the ground. Maybe the opposite arm comes up as well. Big breath in, stretch it out long. Exhale, release. Hand and knee back to the mat. Switching sides, other leg comes up. Pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. And maybe the opposite arm is up as well. Big breath in, stretch out as long as you can. Exhale, release. Let's do 4 more of those on either side with the breath. As you breathe in, lifting up the arm and leg, or maybe just the leg. Exhale, releasing back to the mat. Inhale, lift and stretch. Exhale, release. Keep going, switching sides. Find your own rhythm here. Let your body move with your breath. Inhale, lift and stretch. Exhale, release. 3 more. Listening to your breath, moving nice and slow. 2 more. And last one. Let's come into child's pose now. Putting some space between the knees. Bring the big toes together to touch, but make sure they're not overlapping. And then push your hips back to your heels and relax the upper body down towards the ground. Let your forehead rest on the mat. Elbows come down to the mat. Close your eyes and find a strong, full breath again here. On your next inhale, lift back up to hands and knees, tabletop. And then tuck the toes under. And we're going to make our way all the way up to standing here. Starting with mountain pose. You can adjust your clothing as needed, wiggle it out a little bit. And then peek down at your feet. For mountain pose, we can have our feet together, our big toes touching with a little bit of space between the heels. I've got about an inch and a half between my heels. Or if it feels better, you can also put some space between the feet. Kind of on two different train tracks here. Hands are by our sides, palms facing forward, fingers spread open wide, shoulders roll down the back, and standing up really tall, imagining we have a string pulling the top of our head up to the sky. Look down at your feet. Lift your toes up, spread them all out, and then set them down again. And rock back and forth. Just a few times, really gently here. We're just bringing awareness to all of the nerve endings on the bottoms of the feet. Just really noticing how the bottoms of our feet are feeling today, where we feel contact with the earth. Maybe you could even notice little pockets where your feet are not touching the earth. And then find some stillness there, rooting through the feet, lifting up on the spine. Imagine you are as immovable as a mountain. On a breath in, float the hands up overhead. Look up, hands come together. Exhale, forward fold, hinging from the hips, keeping the spine really long on the way down. Inhale, back up to standing. Bend the knees, let your arms dangle down as you unroll your spine one vertebrae at a time. Exhale, coming back into mountain pose. And 2 more times like that with the breath. Inhale, hands up overhead. Exhale, diving forward, keeping the spine long on the way down. Inhale to standing, knees bent, letting the arms dangle down. Exhale, mountain pose. Last one, inhale, hands up. Exhale, diving from the hips. You can have your knees bent, but try to keep the spine really long as you go down. And then inhale, back up to standing. Exhale, mountain pose. We're going to do just a little bit of a balancing pose here before we start in with our warrior sequence. Bring hands to heart center here. And then on a breath in, come all the way up onto your tippy toes. As you breathe out, bend your knees and try to come into a squat here while keeping the heels elevated up off the ground. Take your time coming down. Let's stay here for a big breath in and out. On your next inhale, try to stand back up, keeping the heels lifted. You can shift your torso forward, helping with the balance of the weight. And then release. Heels come back down to the ground. Mountain pose. Let's try that one more time. Bring hands to heart center. Come all the way up onto the tippy toes. And on a breath out, bend your knees, keeping the heels lifted. See if you can come all the way down to a squat. Stay here. Just take a breath in and out. And on our next inhale, lean forward just a little bit to help with your balance. And then slowly see if you can rise all the way up, keeping the heels lifted. Exhale, release. Shake it all out. Okay, warrior two. We're going to bring hands to the hips, bend the knees, and step one foot all the way back. Bringing the feet perpendicular to each other, front heels lining up with the back heel or the back arch, middle of the back foot. We have our back toes pointing straight towards that long edge, and the front toes straight towards the short end of the mat. The front knee has a nice deep bend in it. Your knee can be a little behind the ankle or right over it, but we don't want the knee in front of the ankle. Make sure the hips are pointing towards the long edge of the mat, and then bring the arms up, peeking back at the back hand, keeping it nice and high, and bring the gaze right over your front middle finger. Let's do our yoga jumping jacks here. Go with your breath. Inhale, straighten out the knee, bring the hands up overhead. Exhale, slowly lowering back down, bend the knee, arms come out to the sides. 4 more. Going with your breath here. Finding your own rhythm. Taking ownership of your practice. Last one. Inhale up. Exhale back down again. Inhale, come to reverse warrior. Front arms coming up overhead, arcing like a rainbow. Back hand can stretch down the back leg, or maybe wrapping back towards the front hip. Legs the same as in warrior two. Maybe you can even bring your gaze up towards the sky. One more big breath in here. On the exhale, legs do the same. Windmill the arms around. Extended side angle. We're going to drop that front elbow down to the front knee and stretch our upper arm overhead. Try to make a straight line from the top middle finger all the way down through that back heel. Maybe bringing the gaze up towards the ceiling. Let's do those 2 poses 2 more times. Just go with your breath at your own pace. On the breath in, legs stay the same. Windmill the arms around. Reverse warrior. Exhale, coming back down, extended side angle. Last one, inhale, arms up and back. Exhale, back into extended side angle. Inhale, coming back up to warrior two, arms straight out to either side. And as you breathe out, drop the hands to the hips, step that foot forward, shake it all out. Other side. Bend the knees, step your other foot back, and I'll turn around here so you can still see the front of me. Our front knee is bent right over the ankle, or just a little behind. Front toes pointing straight towards the short end of the mat, back toes toward that long end. Hips open towards the long end of the mat, and the arms come up, peeking on the back hand, making sure it's nice and high, gazing right to the front middle finger. Yoga jumping jacks. Go at your own pace. Let your breath be your guide. On the inhale, knees straight, hands up. Exhale, coming back down to warrior two. Let your breath help you move here. Just setting your own pace. Last one, inhale, coming up. And exhale, back down again. On the next breath in, reverse warrior, legs stay the same. Front arm is coming up overhead, arcing like a rainbow. Back hand stretching down the back leg, or wrapping back behind you towards the front hip. Maybe the gaze comes up towards the ceiling. One more breath in. On the breath out, legs stay the same, windmilling the arms around. Drop the front elbow down to the front knee and stretch that upper arm overhead. Nice and straight, imagining a single line of energy from the top middle finger all the way through that back heel. 2 more times with the breath. Inhale, rising up, reverse warrior. Exhale, coming back down to extended side angle. Last one, go with your breath. Inhale, back up to warrior two. And then drop the hands to the hips. Step that back foot up to the front. Shake it all out. Let's come into a forward fold here. Feet are hip width distance apart. On the breath in, float the hands up. Exhale, diving from the hips, keeping the spine long. Find your edge, relax your head and neck down. And then reach your hands out and grab onto opposite elbows. You can bend one knee at a time. So give yourself a little swaying motion here. Feel how gravity is helping your spine to reset. All day long we have gravity pulling our spine down the other way. So here's just helping to open things up in the back a little bit. Release the fingertips down to the ground. Weight comes to the fingers. Heel toe the feet back together. Bend the knees. Inhale to standing. Take your time coming up. Exhale, mountain pose. Let's make our way back down to a seat here. Just for a minute. We're going to take a break here in a seat. Easy pose. Maybe you want to cross your legs the awkward way, just to give your body a little bit of a different experience. Hands in your lap. Rocking back and forth, side to side, to find that comfortable seated position. And then once you find it, find some stillness, close your eyes, and bring your attention to your breath. And focusing on our breath is a form of concentration training. The breath is always with us. It's something that we can always come back to. Not only that, the breath is such a good indicator of how the rest of our body is feeling. When we start to get agitated, frustrated, we can often feel it in our breath. And so coming back to the breath really helps you figure out exactly what's going on in your body. If you like, you can bring your hands back to your belly and your upper chest, or just keep your hands in your lap and slow your breath down. Maybe taking a couple more of those 3-part breaths, sending the breath to the belly, the ribs, and the chest. And finding your way back to a long, full, deep breath once again. One of the things that we are doing when we take some time to bring our breath back to a nice, slow, deep cadence, and then moving again and raising the heart rate, is we're training our body to get used to these changes in energy levels so that we can better regulate our nervous system. So just notice here any changes you feel in the rest of your body as your breath starts to slow down. Blink your eyes open. Let's make our way back to hands and knees tabletop, planting the hands, rolling over the knees, or swinging the legs around to one side. And let's bring our knees together to touch. And this time we're going to do our crunches, lining up the hands with the wrists right below the shoulders, pushing down through the pads of the fingers. Lift one leg up, push through the sole of the foot like it's stamping into a wall behind you. And the opposite arm comes up as well. Take a deep breath in, stretch it out long. Exhale, elbow to knee or just knee to nose if your hand is on the ground. Inhale, stretching it out. Exhale into the crunch. 3 more. Go with your breath here. Everybody breathes at a different rate. So we can all move at different rates too. And last one. Inhale, sending the arm and leg out long. Exhale, release. Hand and knee back to their spots on the mats and switch sides. Other leg comes up, pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. Maybe the opposite arm comes up as well. Maybe you leave that hand on the ground. Big breath in, stretch it out long. Exhale into the crunch. 4 more. Listening to your body, going at your own pace. Last one. Inhale, send the arm and leg out long. Exhale, release hand and knee back to the mat. Put some space between the knees, bringing the big toes to touch. And come into child's pose, pushing the hips back to the heels. Let the forehead relax to the ground. Elbows coming down to the mat, closing your eyes. So we just did a breath check-in right before we did our crunches. And crunches are one of those things that can really raise your heart rate, raise the rate of your breath. Do another little check-in here. I know my breath has gone back to being a little bit faster. Make your way back to a slow, full breath again. Noticing and comparing all the different qualities of the breath to how it felt earlier. On your next inhale, lift yourself back up to hands and knees tabletop, and then make your way all the way up to standing. All right, let's do some balancing postures here. Starting by lifting up one knee, we're going to bring all weight to one leg. And with the other leg, we're just going to lift it up in front of us and then interlace the fingers outside of the knee. Or if it feels better, you can have one hand on your knee and one hand on your hips here. And now bring awareness to the hips. So sometimes in these balancing postures, when we're on one foot, we tend to slouch into that standing hip. We want to make sure it's nice and tall. So if this is enough, you can stay right here. Or maybe if you're feeling really flexible, you can start to extend that foot out in front of you, dropping one hand to the hips. And then reaching out, you can grab the pinky toe edge of the foot, or maybe middle finger and index finger go in between the big toe and the second toe. And just see if you can bring that leg out in front of you. One more big breath in here. Exhale, releasing, trying to come into tree pose here. So we've got 3 options. You can start all the way up on the thigh there. Maybe you have your heel underneath the knee, or maybe you want to drop that foot down to the ground with the toes on the ground and the sole of the foot on the ankle. Anywhere is fine. That knee is pointing straight out to the side. Checking on that standing hip, making sure we're not slouching the hip out. And if you like, you can start to include your arms. Grow your branches up. Anywhere the arms feel good is fine. Bringing the fingers together up overhead, palms touching. Hands can just be out to the sides. One last big breath in here. Exhale, release, and shake it all out. And let's try the other side. All weight coming to the other leg, lifting this knee up, interlace the fingers outside of the knee, or maybe just one hand is there and the other hand is on your hip. Check on that standing hip. I've got my little transmitter box here for my mic here, so it looks like my hip is pushing out, but you want to make sure that hip is nice and tall. And maybe you want to try to extend the leg all the way. Middle finger, index finger in between the big toe and the second toe, Or you can wrap your palm around the pinky toe edge of the foot and then start to push that foot out in front of you. You can even keep a little bend in the knee if it doesn't feel like you can extend it all the way. Remember, we're just practicing here, seeing what our bodies are capable of. And it's okay if this side feels really different from the other side too. Our bodies are not symmetrical, even though they look like it. One more big breath in. Exhale, release, coming into tree pose. Maybe you can drop that foot on the thigh. Maybe it feels better with the heel right underneath the knee. Or maybe you want to go all the way down to the ground, toes on the ground, sole of the foot on the ankle, having that knee pointing straight out to the side and making sure you're not slouching into that hip. Then once you feel nice and steady on the feet, if you like, you can include the arms. Remembering that our sides are not symmetrical. Maybe you brought your arms up on the other side, but you don't feel like it on this side. That's also okay. And you can also take a different arm placement on this side if that's what's feeling right to you today. Last big breath in here. Exhale, release, shake it all out. Let's come back into ragdoll pose here. Feet about hip width distance apart. On the breath in, float the hands up overhead. And exhale, folding forward. This time we're going to grab for opposite elbows, crossing our arms the awkward way. And gently rocking side to side by bending one knee at a time. Notice how your spine is just relaxing down towards the ground. Nice and loose, almost like a waterfall. Release your fingertips to the ground. Weight comes to the fingertips. Heel toe, bringing the feet back together. Bend the knees. Inhale to standing. Nice and slow. Take your time coming up. Exhale, mountain pose. Last pose before we do our cool down. Chair pose. We can have our big toes touching with some space between the heels or feet on two different train tracks. Inhale, hands come up. Exhale, sitting back into the chair, knees bent. Push the hips down and back, lift up on the spine, keep the shoulders down the back. So you might start to feel your heart rate rise in this pose. This is one of those poses where it's really a challenge, even though we're holding still. We're holding still in such an unusual position for humans to hold that it starts to raise our heart rate, raise your breathing. And take one last big breath in. Exhale, relax into a forward fold. Push your knees back towards straight. Relax your upper body down. Inhale to standing, knees bent, and rolling the spine. Exhale, mountain pose. Let's make our way all the way back down to a seat and come into a seated forward fold. We'll start by stretching our legs out long in front of us, flexing the toes, bringing the toes toward the face, and then planting the hands on either side of the hips, maybe rocking side to side to tuck your thumbs underneath you just a little bit. Lift up on the spine, roll the shoulders down the back. Maybe you can push through the palms. Maybe you have a little bend in the elbows here. Sit up really straight and tall. Everything in the body is super active. Keeping everything else exactly where it is. Release just the arms. Inhale, arms come up overhead. Exhale, folding forward, taking your time on the way down, and then relaxing into the fold whenever you find your edge. So don't worry if you can't get all the way down here. Seated forward fold is a full back body stretch from the backs of your heels all the way up to the top of your neck. Bring awareness into the back side of your body here and see where you notice this stretch. Maybe you feel it in your legs, somewhere in your back, your shoulders, your hips. We're just noticing where we feel this stretch here. Inhale, walk the hands back, come up to a seat, and then bring your hands behind you, fingers pointing towards the hips, leaning back on the hands, plant the feet on the mat, space between the feet, and rock the knees side to side. Boat pose. We'll start by just planting our feet on the mat, knees pointing to the sky, and clasping our hands outside of the knees. You can just hang on to your knees here if it doesn't feel good to have your hands together. Lean back just a little bit to lengthen the spine. And then we're going to keep all that length in the spine. It takes a lot of core strength to keep your spine really tall here. Release the hands and tuck the fingers in the creases of both knees. And then lean back to float the feet. So if that feels like too much, you can stay here. And if you want a little bit more challenge, you can start to release the hands out to the sides. And if you really want to challenge yourself, maybe you even want to straighten out the legs. That one's even super challenging, even for me. Let's just stay here a couple more breaths. And release. Drop the feet on the mat. Hands come behind you, fingers pointing towards the hips. Gently rock the knees side to side. Bring the soles of the feet together, letting the knees open out to the sides. And then you can pull your feet in as close as they feel comfortable. They don't need to be super close. And the knees don't need to be down very far. So if you have pretty tight hips, your knees might be a little bit higher up. That's okay too. Just depends on the shape of your body. Interlace the fingers, tucking them underneath the toes, sitting up really straight and tall. Take a big breath in here. On the exhale, folding forward over the feet, keeping the spine long. Don't worry about how far you get down. You can open up your elbows and push the knees down a little bit farther. Find your edge wherever your range of motion is ending. Just find that edge. On your next inhale, come back up to a seat. And let's make our way all the way down to our backs. Drawing the knees into the chest. Wrap both arms around the legs. Take a big breath in. Exhale, cannonball pose, curling tight into a ball. Lift your forehead to your knees. Squeeze everything tight together. Inhale, big good morning stretch. Arms come up overhead, flat on the ground. Stretch your legs out as long as you can. And on your next breath out, come back into cannonball, drawing the knees to the chest, wrapping the arms around the legs, and lifting your forehead up to your knees. Release your head back down to the mat. Bring your hands to your kneecaps and do some circles here. So you can move your knees together in the same direction as each other. Or maybe it feels better to move them in opposite directions from each other. And then let's find circles going the other way. Come back to center. Release the arms out wide in a T. Float the legs up in a tabletop. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, drop the knees down to one side, all the way to the ground. Trying to keep that 90-degree angle in the knees and hips, but it's okay if it's not perfect. These fingers where the knees are can tuck in the crease of the top knee, helping the legs stay down. And then turn your head to bring your gaze over to your opposite hand, completing the twist. Switching sides, release your top hand back out to the side. Inhale, lift the knees up. On the exhale, drop them down to the other side, all the way to the ground, trying to keep that 90-degree angle. But don't worry if it's not perfect. Fingertips on that side can tuck in the crease of the top knee if that feels good. And then turn the head, bringing the gaze over to the opposite hand, completing the twist. See if you can notice where you feel this twist in your spine, if it's the same or different from the other side. And then release, top hand back, comes back out to the side. Inhale, knees come up to center. Exhale, letting your legs come all the way down, making your way into Shavasana. I'm just going to take a moment to grab my little book so I can read you guys the meditation here. I'll come back up to a seat so you can hear me, but you guys can stay in your laying down position. Just get as comfortable as you can. And then see if you can make yourself 10 to 15% more comfortable, making any adjustments so that you can completely relax into stillness here. Yoga Nidra is usually done laying on the back, but if for some reason that does not feel good to you, maybe you have some pain in your hip or something, you can always adjust coming onto your side, maybe even laying on your belly or in a seat, whatever you find the most relaxing position. And close your eyes, noticing any shadows that fall across the eyelids. Now notice all the sounds you can hear inside of the room that you're in. Maybe you hear some vents. Maybe you hear some outside traffic noise. And you can hear my voice. And now listen to all the sounds you can hear inside of your own body. Maybe you hear your breath. Feel the weight of your body on the surface of the mat. Feel your breath gently flowing in and out. Notice what is present in you. There's no need to change your experience. We're just being with it, just as it is. Whatever thoughts are coming and going, turn your attention to the sensations of the body. Throughout this meditation, you may notice your mind wandering. If you ever feel your mind wandering, just bring your awareness back to your breath and back to my voice. Without moving it, bring all awareness to your right thumb, noticing where it is in space, if it's touching anything. You can imagine it in your mind's eye. Bring awareness to your right index finger, noticing where it is, how it feels. Right middle finger, right ring finger, and right pinky finger. Bring your awareness to your right palm. Perhaps you notice a texture or a temperature there. The back of your right hand, right wrist. Bringing your awareness to your right lower arm, right elbow, right upper arm, and right shoulder. All of your awareness is on your right hand and arm as they relax. Bring your awareness to your right ribs. Perhaps you feel them moving with the breath. Right hip, right upper leg, the thigh, the right knee, the front and the back, right lower leg, the shin and calf. Bring awareness to your right ankle, top of the right foot, the bottom of the right foot, and each of your right toes. All of your awareness is on your right side, leg and foot, as they relax. Shift your awareness to your left thumb, noticing where it is in space, if it's touching anything, how it feels. Moving to the left index finger, left middle finger, left ring finger, left pinky finger. Bring awareness to your left palm, the back of your left hand, left wrist, left lower arm, bringing awareness to your left elbow, left upper arm, and left shoulder. All of your awareness is on your left hand and arm as they relax. Shifting awareness to your left ribs. Maybe you can feel them moving with your breath. Left hip, left upper leg, the thigh. Left knee, the front and the back. Left lower leg, the shin and calf. Left ankle, top of the left foot, bottom of the left foot, and each of your left toes. All of your awareness is on your left side, leg and foot, as they relax. Bring your awareness to the back of your head, top of your head, forehead, eyebrows. Feel your eyelids heavy across your eyes, bringing awareness to your nose, cheeks, lips, chin and jaw, the neck and throat, collarbones, and that space in your chest where your heart sits. All of your awareness is on your head, face, and heart as they relax. Take a moment to feel where you might still be holding on to tension, or if you're struggling against yourself in any way. Allow yourself, if it feels right, to drop the tension, the struggle, and just be as you are, resting here, feeling the sensations of the body and the breath gently flowing in and out. We'll have a couple minutes of silent meditation here before we complete our flow. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, taking some deeper inhales and exhales, bringing some movement into your fingers and toes, maybe rocking your head side to side, and then slowly start to make your way back up to a comfortable seat. We'll just do a couple more poses here to shake our yoga fog before we complete our flow. Coming back into an easy pose. On a breath in, floating the hands up overhead. Exhale, folding over the feet, walking the fingertips out, keeping the spine really long. On your next breath in, walk your hands back, lift your chest up, float the hands all the way up overhead. Exhale, side stretch. One hand comes down, walking the fingers out, opposite arm arcing overhead, maybe bending, straightening that elbow. Inhale back up to center. Exhale, coming down the other way. Inhale back to center, stretching the hands up. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Thank you all so much for joining me today for yoga. I actually asked the person who